Uh, and I saw this guy had a Golden Globe beside him, so I figured, why not?
There is an Andrew Jimenez that works at Pixar.
Yeah. Well, good. So yes, here we are, deep dive into application detection. So let me just hand to you.
Okay.
And I forgot to ask, I don't know, Brian, Dam, if you're still on, but also for you, Andrew, if I am recording. If you guys are good, I'll post these up on our YouTube site. But if not, that's completely fine. And just let me know. We'll make sure we're clear before we do anything there.
Let's see how bad I do.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so much incriminating stuff out there already. Let's
Yeah.
want more.
Okay, I'm trying this PowerPoint, this new PowerPoint option. Can everyone see that and go
Looks
through the
good.
slides and
I
stuff?
see motion. Yeah.
Yeah. PowerPoint actually picked this background for me just based off the title. So that's some awesome sort of AI. I use like the designed helper or something in
Ideas or whatever.
PowerPoint. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it picked this for me, and I was like, that's the one, first try. So I'm Andrew Jimenez. I work for Patch My PC. I haven't given any sort of presentation in like 2 years. So yeah, forgive me if I'm super fast. Yell at me if I'm super fast. Yeah, I work for Patch My PC. My primary role at Patch My PC is working with the catalog. So what I do, Adam's already telling me to slow down. Working with the catalog. So I'm working with detection methods and applicability rules all the time, mostly in WSUS, but what I'm going to explain today kind of works for everything. WSUS, Intune, Config Manager. Most of my whole demo will be in Config Manager, but the ideas, the background stuff transfers everywhere. It's all the same thing. No matter what you're using, like detecting apps is going to be equivalent just about everywhere. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started into an application detection deep dive. I'm going to start with an existential question. What does it mean for an app to be installed? So just think really hard, like, what does it mean? So is it when binaries are actually installed on the file system? Is it when it shows up in admin programs, when you get an exit code of 0? Is it all of the above? And the real answer is it's a mix of these things. It's to me, an app is installed when all the files are on the system and you can open and run the app, and like the shortcuts are there so people can actually open the program. I've seen lots of times where apps install, but there's no shortcuts, and so to open it you have to go to program files. So what does it really mean? And it's really a combination of these things. Next, what are some common detection method types? So these are the ones that I pulled out of Config Manager, but most things that do detection have these as options. So you've got file detection, registry detection, and I'm gonna split registry detection in two. There's registry detection outside of ARP, and to be very clear, anytime I say ARP, that's add remove programs. That's the control panel programs and features, that list of apps that are installed on your machine. So anytime I refer to ARP, that's what I'm referring to. And then there's registry detection of ARP registry entries. And my cat has just decided to wake up, of course. And then we've got script detection, which can be a combination of these above. Script detection really unlocks everything. It's whatever you want it to be. And then in Config Manager, there's also MSI Based Detection. I started with the top 4, and then I realized, oh, there's an MSI based one in Config Manager. So I've added that one as well, because that one's super easy. So we'll start with file detection. So file detection is, how does it work? It just looks to see if files are on the disk. You specify the files and say, if these files are found, that means the app is installed. Advantages to this are it's a really easy way to detect the presence of an application. The downsides are it may detect if an app install is partially completed. I worked for a university before Patch My PC, and I had one summer where I deployed MATLAB no less than 6 times to 4,000 computers. And I had to do it so many times because it was only partially installing. And during that partial install, the installer would exit, and the files would all be on the system, or most of the files, I thought. The executable was at least on the system, and I was using the executable as detection. And but the app wasn't completely installed. So the app would open and then it would fail because files were missing. So because of that, the app wasn't actually installed. It was detected but not installed. Also, for file detection, it's not easy to differentiate between MSI or exe-based installations, and I'll go into why that's important later on. It also doesn't take into account if you do like custom file paths. So say you look for an app in program files and then the app name, but someone actually just put it on the root of C. Your file detection is not going to work for that, even if the app is installed. Next up, registry detection. So registry detection just detects the presence of specific registry values. So these are, I've decided that these registry values mean that this app is installed. The good thing about registry detection is it can take some custom installation locations into account. Registry value, but some pitfalls are that registry values may be left behind after an uninstall. Sometimes apps don't clean up after themselves and will leave behind registry entries. Also, registry values outside of add and remove programs might not represent the installation state of an app. So if these are like settings registry keys, they won't accurately represent where the app is installed. A lot of apps will just leave registry keys in the registry even after they've been uninstalled. Next, registry detection add and remove programs. So this is my favorite one. It's usually pretty accurate in terms of whether or not an app is installed. What it is there is specific registry entries or registry keys that actually populate the add and remove programs list that you see in control panel or settings. So using this will actually accurately tell you if an app is installed, usually. So it detects regardless of install location. It detects after an application has been successfully installed. The downside to this one is it usually requires a script for detection. Specifically for MSIs, MSI-based installers will install with their product code in the registry, and so you can't really key off that product code, especially if you're thinking about like creating new releases of updates or apps, because that product code will change. Finally, MSI-based detection. MSI-based detection determines if a specific MSI product code has been installed. This is literally the easiest one for at least Config Manager and Intune, because you basically select the MSI and it just generates the detection for you. The downside to this, it's only going to detect that specific version. I think it's really funny. Config Manager, when you bring in an MSI, you have the option to also select a version, but for like 99.9% of MSIs out there, the version, the product code changes with the version. So detecting the product code and the version is usually moot anyway. There's no real point in actually doing it. It's also limited to MSI-based applications, with the exception of exe-based installers that are just wrapped MSIs. You can get it from those, but you have to do it manually. Before I go, and just so everyone knows, this is going to be a lot of demo, not a lot of slides. So before I go into demo, just some tips. So when creating detection methods, you should choose a detection method that will stay consistent with newer versions. So like I said before, like basing it on the product code is difficult, because when you go to create a new version of apps, I'll go into that, George. So George Simmons says our registry entries are always accurate. Install location is missing from several applications. That is true, but you don't need to know the install location to actually detect that the app is installed. And I'll actually point out a different path in the registry to determine that. Yeah, I did say it's usually good. The one consistent thing in packaging applications is nothing is consistent. Vendors do crazy things all the time, and it really is a lot of times a case-by-case basis. Where you have to figure things out. That being said, if you can, choose a detection method that will stay consistent with newer versions. That saves you time when a new version of an app comes out and you need to package it. If you can just update the version number in your detection method, it saves you a ton of time when new versions come out. Next, and this kind of goes with the one above, determine if you care if this specific version of an application is installed. So usually when I'm doing like a detection method script, I'm going to default to greater than or equal to for my version checks. That way I can check, that way if an app updates itself automatically. I'm not re-pushing out. Like say I have a required deployment, it means I'm not pushing out the old version to try to install over a newer version just because an app's auto updated. When using a script, which I'm not going to go into scripts too much, like there's some apps where you can only maybe accurately determine if they're installed via WMI. But if you're going to do a script and you want to query like what's installed, sometimes you'll see someone say, "Oh, just query W or Win32 _ product." And the problem with that is it runs repairs on all the MSIs when it's running through if you query that Win32 product. So I have a nice link here. Hey, look, Greg Ramsey wrote this. So Greg Ramsey.
That's the article.
That's the article.
That's the article.
How many hits do you get on that article?
I don't know if I'm proud or embarrassed to say more than any other article that I have. That's my most popular one. I guess the title made it work. It's made it stick.
Yeah. So that Win32 product, just don't do it. Also, don't get a cat. And finally, test. Test your detection after you're done. Push the app out and make sure it works. Don't push out MATLAB 6 times. And with that, I think we'll go to demo. Awesome. And before I start demo, I'm going to move this cat out of the room real quick.
So I have a recent story on the Win32 product. I had a guy internally ping me recently and said that they were chasing down this issue and ended up finding my blog. And internally, somebody had redone something that we'd undone several years ago. And it's kind of funny that they come all the way back around to finding that blog that's, 8 years old or whatever by now. So funny.
And you did hear right. Don't get a cat.
Oh, I have a cat. So yeah.
They're in the way. I swear she's been asleep all morning, and then I start talking, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm going to be awake now."
Oh, good.
Can everyone see my client here?
Yep. See your desktop.
Thank you, Patch My PC, for sponsoring and providing me my demo machine that I use every day. So we're going to start here on our demo client, and I'm basically going to show a bunch of different detection methods and some major pitfalls that you'll see when packaging and detecting apps. I'm going to do this with the universal demo app, 7-Zip. And we're just going to go to the 7-Zip download page. And you know what? I'm going to download all 4 of these. So the 2 EXEs and the 2 MSIs. I'm going to do this for a very specific reason. So there's the 32-bit and 64-bit 7-Zip EXEs and the 32-bit and 64-bit MSIs. And let's just go ahead and install the first one. So we'll do the first one is the 32-bit 7-Zip EXE. We're just going to run this installer really quick and install it. And so when we do that, you'll see, hey, there's 7-Zip. It's installed. But now I'm going to go ahead and run the 32-bit MSI. And the fun thing that's going to happen here is it is going to add a second entry in add and root programs. Because the EXE or the MSI doesn't care to look for the EXE or whether or not the EXE is installed. It just goes ahead and installs. And the MSI is the other way, is the same way. So so say you had the EXE package and you're only looking for the EXE in your detection method, doing that and pushing out the MSI. So say one of your users installed the EXE by hand, and then you go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to be really helpful and package 7-Zip for everyone and push out the MSI. Doing so will leave you in this state where you have 2 entries for 7-Zip. There, of course, is only 1 install and on the machine. So if you go in here, 7-Zip, and there's only 1 instance of 7-Zip installed. But it shows twice in here. And the really fun part is if you uninstall one of these, so I'm going to uninstall, let's see which one. I'm going to install this one real quick. I'm going to install this one. So I'm going to uninstall the MSI. And I knew that was the MSI because the EXE has this uninstall.exe. And so now I have an entry for 7-Zip. So 7-Zip should be installed. This is where add and root products might lie to you. And no 7-Zip actually installed. We just have the uninstall exe left. So let's just go ahead and actually completely remove 7-Zip and we'll start over. The really, really fun part is you can actually do all 4 and you'll end up with 4 instances of 7-Zip on your device. Although you only have 2 instances really installed. Back to downloads, I'm just going to do these super quick. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do one more thing too. I'm going to install an older version too, 7-zip 19. Yeah, if 1.7-zip is great, imagine 4. I think it may have actually upgraded it. We're just going to keep installing 7-zip all day. You never have too many installs of 7-zip. And this is not a specific thing to 7-zip. Most apps, if they provide an exe install and an MSI install, the exe install won't care about the MSI install, and the MSI install won't care about the exe install. For some vendors, the exe install is smart enough to look for the MSI. For some installers, the exe doesn't care. For some installers, the MSI does it just fine. And there we go. Hey, at least 19 got upgraded some point in there. So now we have 4 instances of 7-zip. We only actually have 2 installs of 7-zip, I would say. So if we go to program files, we'll have 7-zip here, and then we'll also have it in the 32-bit program files. So what is causing this to happen where we have 4? This is all this information is actually stored in the registry. So when I was talking about detecting based on the registry, and I'll go to the uninstall key. Actually, let me navigate to it. I was actually here before. So the key, the special magical key that you want to search for is HT local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows, current version, uninstall. And this key is what populates admin programs. So under this uninstall key, and pro tip, if you didn't know, you can add to favorites in regedit. So uninstall 64. So now I have that saved, and anytime I'm on this computer, I can hit that uninstall 64. It'll take me straight here. So that registry key goes here, and there's 1 instance of 7-zip, and then there's 2 instances of 7-zip, and these are the 64-bit instances of 7-zip. If we want to find the 32-bit instances of 7-zip, we actually go to HT local machine software. And then from there, we actually go to WOW6432 node, WOW6432 node, and then Microsoft, Windows, current version, uninstall. And here are the 32-bit installs. WOW6432 node being the differentiator there. WOW6432 node is a magical place where when you run a 32-bit installer or 32-bit app, Windows actually sort of magically redirects all registry rights to this folder. In fact, if you package things in Config Manager, I've got some 7-zip things packaged here already. So if you've built an app in Config Manager before and you've gone to deployment types and gone to programs, you'll see this magic checkbox here. This actually forces the app to run in 32-bit mode, and it will write. When there's registry writes, it'll actually write to this WOW6432 node. And you'll see in this WOW6432 node, there's also, if I find it, 2 instances of 7-zip again. So there's the exe, or here's the MSI, and here's the exe. And I can tell that this is the MSI because 1, the key name here is a GUID, and 2, there's this Windows installer key here. So this Windows installer key means that this was installed via an MSI. The exe for 7-zip does not have a Windows installer key or value. The key itself is not a GUID. There's some other cool stuff I can show you in here. So you'll find that in these registry keys, there are some apps that just don't show up. So like if I look at this app here, Microsoft Visual C++ 2019 x86 minimum runtime, if I look in admin programs, I don't actually see that anywhere in here. There's some Visual C++ runtimes, but there's not the 2019 one specifically. And that is due to the system component value here. So that system component actually hides it. So if I wanted to, I could actually go in here and do new D word and do system component and set that equal to 1. And then if I refresh admin programs, we have 1 less 7-zip installed. It's still installed, of course. But I've just hidden it from admin programs. Delete that. Let's see, where to go from here. Yes, also, Jason or someone else just brought up user installs. User-based installs aren't in HKLM. They are in HKey current user or in the user-specific registry hive. So HKey current user software. It's going to be in the same place. Microsoft, Windows. I don't know if there's any user-based apps installed in this. Uninstall. Oh, there is. No, OneDrive. Good old OneDrive. So hey, OneDrive is installed, but it's in the user context. So you can also use the user-based context for detection if you need to. Also, for MSI-based installs, there's another really cool place that you can look. This is an HKey classes root, which almost no one ever actually needs to go into. And I believe in here, there's just an installer. Yep, right here. So HKey classes root installer has assemblies, dependencies, features, products, upgrade codes. I don't know for certain, but I believe when you query Win32 product, it actually queries these registry keys. The one that we're interested in is products. And I think if we go through here, we will find a 7-zip one, hopefully. 7-zip, there you are. So here's our 7-zip. And here's actually both the 32 and 64-bit versions of 7-zip. The key name is actually, it's some weird messed up version of the actual product code. It looks like it might be the package code for that update or for that app. And then underneath, you actually have the source list. If you've ever messed with the sources in Config Manager, the source list is where, when you do like a repair, this is where it looks for the source. It's got the last used source. I think this media one is where you go. And this one doesn't actually list the source, but some will. And that's where it knows where to look for when it does a repair or an upgrade if you use patch files. I think that's enough in the registry. Let's go ahead and look at some actual detection methods. So I've done a few different ones. I've built a few different apps in here. I built the 32 and 64-bit EXEs, and I built the 32-bit MSI. We'll start with the 64-bit EXE, and I've kind of just showing off in here the different types of detection methods that are possible. So we'll start with this one. This one is the, 7-zip 64-bit EXE. We've got, so in here I did a file search. So this is a file detection right here. I look in program file 7-zip. I look for the 7ZFM. You can see here for the version I chose greater than or equal to, and I put a value in there too. Additionally, I wanted to add a second check. This one was kind of just to show off this one. Someone mentioned before that sometimes the app path isn't shown. There is this special key called app paths in the registry. That's under, you gotta remember where it is. Software Microsoft, actually just do this. So according to Microsoft, whenever you install, whenever an installer runs, it should register the app path. I know that doesn't actually happen very often, but the app paths registered here are registered, and it should give you the path directly to the installer or to the app itself. So the default app path should point directly to the actual exe for the app. There's some cool docs on this that I actually kind of fell into. App path registry. I'll try to share this one out. And they have a whole doc on application registering applications and the app path subkey. It says that an application installed can be registered over here, and it's used to map to the FQD for the fully qualified path and to prepend information to the path environment variable. I didn't find this to be true, because if this was true, I should be able to open CMD and just run 7z fm.exe, and it should just work, but it doesn't find it. So I don't understand why it says it should prepend the information to the path variable. But either way, many apps do register themselves here, and you can use this as sort of an easy detection method for registry. Additionally, we've got, earlier I actually showed how the uninstall.exe only existed for the exe-based install, so I could use this to determine that the exe was installed. You'll also see I've got connectors here, and you can actually do some really crazy stuff with connectors and grouping. So I had been packaging software for about 2 years before I realized you could actually click on this connector button and switch it from and to or. So I really wanted to point that out because it just blew my mind when I realized you could actually click that and then it was a button. Because if you're not clicking on it, it really doesn't look like a button at all. And there's no like button here to change things like you would expect. There's a button for grouping and ungrouping, but there's no button to say, oh, switch this from an and to an or. So I thought these were just stuck as ands. So something I really wanted to point out, something that like really like changed everything for me when I realized I could do ors here. So if you have things that might be in different paths, you can totally do a bunch of ors and say this could be here or here or here or here, and look for different install locations if you need to. Let's go ahead and look at the 32-bit exe. I don't even remember how I made this one. So let's see how I set this one up. Let's see how I did this one. Oh, this one. So this one I just looked. So we knew that the exe-based installers. Look, I helped at least one person. Someone didn't know that. So now I've helped at least one person. So the exe-based installer, we could totally do a registry check in Software Microsoft Windows current version uninstall, and then do display name. I just make sure the display name exists because I mean, it's looking for 7-zip. So we can do that and we know it's there. This checkbox here says, look in WoW 6432 node. So you don't need to go in here and say WoW 6432 node. That won't work on 32-bit devices because it's not, this path is not going to exist. So instead of putting WoW 6432 node in there, make sure you just check this box and it'll move it over to the 32-bit Hive automatically. One improvement I would make to this one is actually I would use registry detection, and then I would also use a file detection, just to make sure that, hey, 7-zip also existed, the exe also existed on the device to ensure that, hey, yeah, the app is actually there. So this would probably be what I would do for 7-zip in this situation. The benefits of grouping versus not grouping. So say you had, so for the grouping, say you had something that was, trying to think of a good situation. So say you had something that could be installed in the 32-bit registry key or the 64-bit registry. You know what a great example is Google Chrome. Google Chrome for the longest time, even the 64-bit installer installed in the 32-bit registry keys. So it would install in, and even today, Google Updater's in there. I don't know if I have Chrome on this device. Oh, but Edge is. So Edge does the same thing. So if you go to Software Microsoft Windows, or actually Software WoW 6432 node, and I'll just go to Microsoft and then I'll go to Edge. So this is something that you can use for Chrome or Edge detection. So one, Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, they don't tell you whether they're 32 or 64-bit on a device. And so what you have to use is this client state folder. And this client state folder will tell you everything you need to know about your Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge instance. There should be in here the type of update. Actually, I don't see it in here. Usually there's an AP in here, and that AP will tell you what type of install it is. Is it under clients instead? That's actually interesting. Let me go on. No, this is a client. Well, now I feel like I'm lying to you. Anyway, this brand actually tells you the type of install it is. It is really weird though, because usually you'll see an AP in here and it'll say 64-bit or 32-bit. Maybe it's in the 32-bit Hive, and this would actually be a good reason to have both. Microsoft. Edge. No, see, so the Edge update is only in the 32-bit Hive. Anyway, Edge and Chrome used to be installed, like the 32-bit would be installed in 32-bit Hive, but the 64-bit would be installed in either or, depending on when you installed it. So you could find Google Chrome in 64-bit or 32-bit. Anyway, let's look at this MSI real quick. So this is this one is the MSI based detection. So this would literally only detect the version for this 7-zip app. This is the MSI based detection. It literally built this for me automatically just by popping in the MSI. It pulled it out of the MSI. And then I'm going to build one more. So I did mention scripts and that you can use scripts to determine like when an app is installed. I saw someone did a Hey PowerShell guy link to how to find an app if it's installed. I built my own super quick, super dirty. It literally just looks, it grabs all the child items. So get child item of software Microsoft current version uninstall and paste that here. And so it literally grabs both of these, puts them into an array, and then based on the information you give here, we'll determine if the app is installed. So let's do 7-zip as an example. I'm going to be actually made it so that you can just use wildcard. So I did 7-zip asterisk app version. I have 19 installed on the server for some reason still. And then do I want to see if it's an exe or an MSI? So let's do this. Let's start with exe first, and let's see if it's found. I'm just going to run it. And it was not found. But if I change this Windows installer, I'm pretty sure the MSI is installed. Oh yeah, here, let me close that. Here we go. And actually, let me see if I can zoom in here. Is there a false positive that exists using this method with PowerShell? I'd need more info.
I was just, I think I was on the same paid scripting guy, and they said something about using that, like the registry for uninstall and PowerShell. Sometimes it would give you a false positive, like it wasn't, like when you went to uninstall, it would still say that it was installed or something, vice versa.
So that kind of situation could happen in like the situation that we're in here with 7-zip, because you'd uninstall it, but it would still be detected with the script, depending on how much deeper you went into the script. So this script doesn't take into account a 32 or 64-bit, although I could just by commenting out the 64-bit hive. There's always a possibility for out a little bit. So there's always the possibility for like a false positive. And I'll put this script on my GitHub and I'll share that out in my presentation. I haven't actually put it on GitHub because I built it this morning. But I will definitely have it on my GitHub. So yeah, there's like nothing is perfect. It's not going to always be 100%. But if you get 99.9% of the cases, you're going to be in a really good spot. And those one-offs will be easier to fix as long as you get the rest of them working really well. And the really nice thing about a script like this as your detection method is that when a new version comes out, so I think 21's out now, you just go in here and change that, update the app content, and you're set. You just bring in the script new. I'll actually build this one real quick, just so I don't know if I don't know how many people here have actually ever built an app. I actually presented to one of my coworkers who's never actually built an app in Config Manager. So I'm going to go through the whole process really quick and show that off. And also, someone please yell at me if I'm running low on time. I think Greg said I can have a few more minutes since we ran over previously. So yeah, we'll do a manually specify the application information here because we're going to use a script. And I'll call this 7-zip. Which 7-zip is this? 64-bit. What if newer is installed already? So my script here actually looks for greater than or equal to. And actually here, let me go through this real quick. So what I do is gather the apps in the registry. No, I actually skipped that. I should have gone over this. So it grabs the apps in the registry, and then all it does is it takes the apps array and does a where object on it. And that where object looks for the display name equal to the app name up here. So if the display name is like this app name, and of course that helps us support the wildcards, and the display version is greater than or equal to the app version, and the Windows installer matches this Windows installer, so you'd set that to 0 or 1, it would return to you if there was any output from this. So if it found anything, it would return that the app was found and you get installed. For detection, if something is found, you want it to return with some text. If it's not found, you don't want it to say anything. So make sure that none of these, like if you had like a new folder creation in here and it was spitting stuff out, you would end up getting false positives. Yes, so if an app with this detection script was pushed out and there was a newer version installed, it would just come back as compliant. Sweet. All right, so let's go ahead and make this one. I'm going to copy this. Let's go back into config manager actually, and we left off here, 7-zip x64, and I'll call this MSI. Did I do the MSI? Hold on, I need to see what I have. x64, yeah, MSI. So this is an MSI, but we're still just going to look for it with the script. I'm not going to do all the fancy stuff here. I'm not going to do anything else here. And I'm going to start with our deployment type. So the deployment type is really what defines what makes an update or an app. We'll go here and we're going to make it a script installer. Oops, script installer, please. And next, you give it a name. This name just really specifies, hey, what kind of app is this? 7-zip. You don't really have to do too much there. Content location. So where are we going to get this out from? I have this nice local repository here. What? Oh, yeah, select folder. And then installation program. So this is the MSI. I want to do the MSI actually. That's fine. And this is going to be, am I still maintaining? Yes, just not as frequently as I used to. MSI exec /i, then we'll just do /qn. So there's our install program. And then here's what we really wanted is our detection method. So use a custom script. I'm going to hit edit. You can paste the script right in here. You can also bring in a script if you sign it. I'm not going to sign this. And what we want, so we're going to look for anything newer than 19. Actually, I think we're on what, 21.7 now. 1.07, and we'll say okay. I really like I think this was 1 or 2 releases ago when they actually color coded this. Super helpful to actually be able to read. This is an MSI, this is 7-zip, cool. And next, we want to install for system. This is a system-wide install. We don't care if the user's logged on. Next, 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 and we're all good. So now we've built that one deployment type for this app. We can hit next, and we are done. For an app, if you really wanted to, you could actually fit all 4 deployment types into this one app, and then it would detect if any of the 4 different types were installed. That goes a little overboard, but it's something that you could do. You can actually have multiple deployment types, and if any of the deployment types come back as installed, then the app itself would be installed. Yes, post output method would also work for configuration items. At the end of the day, apps are configuration items plus content. So apps are basically the same thing as a configuration item. The configuration item for an app is whether or not it's installed, like the detection method, and then the content is the new part that an app has. And that's it on creating the app. What's my time like, Brian? Or not Brian, Greg.
I mean, you're good if you want to go another 15 minutes or so. We'll just do a little wrap up when you're done. So
okay.
We're good.
I don't know if I have 15 minutes left of content, but I did want to show some tools that I've made and some tools that are out there to really help with this. So if you're using the script, I'll start with Orca. I've taught at least one person about Orca today already. Orca is an application created by Microsoft. It's actually in the SDK for Windows, and Orca tears apart MSIs. So if you don't know, an MSI is just a database. So if I hit open here and let me do desktop 7-zip installers, and so this is an MSI. An MSI is a database. You've got your binaries in here. If you ever want to get the icon for an app and it's in an MSI, you can literally double click this binary and I can say icon.ico. Actually, that's icon info. Let's see if this works. Actually, browse icon.ico. No, I said to make it. should be able to, oh, write binary. Okay, there we go. Browse icon.ico, save, and okay. And this will actually write the binary out. And there's an icon. Yeah. So there's the icon that for that thing. It looks like none of these icons are for the app itself, but if there's an app icon in there, you can set it out. You can export it from there. But the big thing you always want to look at when concerning yourself with detection is this property table. So the property table will have the product name. So this is the display name in Add and Remove Programs. The product version. This is the display version in Add and Remove Programs. And those are the two most helpful things. Super Orca. Yeah, I like the old school stuff. If you don't want to use Orca, I actually built a little app or a little PowerShell script. It's on my GitHub. It's actually at the end of the slides called Get MSI Info. This is actually, you install it and it becomes a right-click option. So after you install this Get MSI Info and you right-click an MSI, you'll have this option to get MSI information. If you click on it, it'll actually just bring up the properties table of that MSI. Super quick. And so I can see here that the product name is 7zip19 and the product version is 19, and I'm done. I think I need to remember if I did this right. I think I also copied the data. I think it copies the version number to the clipboard as well. I also have this app or this script here called Get Installed Software. This is, again, a super basic script. And this script uses, basically, it does the same thing that my detection method uses, but then it puts it out to a PS table and also will copy it to a notepad file. So there's our installs here. So if I want to get any info about any of these, this is all the info that's in Add and Remove Programs for that app. So you can hit like 7zip21 and hit OK, and it'll actually bring everything you need here. I use this for packaging apps a lot. So you've got your display name, display version, uninstall string, super helpful. It'll just spit that out for you if it's there. Quiet uninstall string, a lot of times will have the install string spit out. Someone asked for something similar for EXEs. Unfortunately, EXEs are super tricky because they're different for everyone. So the easiest thing to do for an EXE is install the EXE, then run this thing. And that'll give you the information, the same information, but it just has to be installed first. So like, what's an EXE? Google Chrome's an EXE. And there's the information for Google Chrome, although Google Chrome technically can be an MSI. So there's all that. And I think that's all I really have. Any questions from anyone? Let me go back to my slides real quick. Link to my GitHub. There we go. We'll do that right now.
Somebody asked if there's anything similar for EXEs.
Yeah, and there's not, because EXEs aren't standardized. MSIs are all standardized. They're standard. Every MSI is the same. Let me jump to the end. Yeah, questions. And then also we have links. So there's the get all info is this one right here. Extract MSIs from EXE. It depends. So to extract MSIs from EXEs, sometimes 7-zip works. Sometimes you just have to open it and then go to the temp folder. It really depends. All EXEs are different. A lot of times it's just extract it with 7-zip. But other times, again, just open it. Yeah, Java, you have to open it and just sit at the window where it says, hey, do you want to install it? And then you can go %temp%, and then you're there. Any recommendations to determine what scripts or tools are calling Win32 product? So to do Win32 product, you can look in the event viewer and you will see. Actually, let's do it real quick. Let me switch back over. So let's open event viewer. And I'm not sure if this will help you get to what called it, but I think it'll end up in application logs. So let's do this. And I'll just go PowerShell get CIM instance. If you're not using get CIM instance yet, move to get CIM instance instead of get what is it called? WMI.
Object.
Yeah, instead of the WMI object, get CIM instance is faster. 32 product. It's gonna autofill it for me now. Nope, so close. Product. Nope, 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 nope. Here we go. So let's see what happens when I do this. Boom, do events available. And you will see it spam. Windows installer reconfigured the product 800 times. And this is why you don't use get Win32 get Win32 product. Every one of these is Microsoft updating or reconfiguring the MSI. So that happens, and say you have 100 apps installed, it's going to try to reconfigure them. Say the content is no longer there for one of the MSIs, it's going to fail reconfiguring it, and you're going to run into issues. It also slows things down because it's doing this reconfigure on every single app. Let's see if we have what launched it. User system, that's crazy. Yeah, it doesn't look like it tells you what launched it, unfortunately. So if you're seeing it a lot, try to figure out when it happens, and then I don't know, run a sysinternals tool, whatever it's called, Process Explorer, Procmon, and figure out what the heck is calling it. Let me just share this back out one more time so that you guys have the links. Orca. Would you like to resume from slide 11? Yes. Orca is actually kind of hard to get, so I tried to make it easy. You go get the Windows SDK and select, and this might be kind of small, and select the MSI tools. That won't actually install Orca, but the installer will be in the tools that get extracted, and then you can install it from there. Any tricks for detection when apps install to app data roaming? You can still use detection for that. They should be in the same uninstall registry hive, but just under HKey current user. And then just make sure they're set as a user-based app in Config Manager or Intune. Awesome. Well, I think I can end with that. I will update this slide with the GitHub for the detection script. And I think that's all I had.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. Very helpful. Good stuff.